It is now 6:09, and we're going to start the Committee of the Whole. Madam Clerk, can you do roll call, please?
Alderman Hayes.
Present.
Alderman Bolton.
Present.
Alderman Guzman.
Present.
Alderman Martinez.
Present.
Alderman Felix.
Present.
Alderman Newsom.
Present.
Alderman Turner.
Present.
Alderman Donnerworth.
Present.
Alderman Florian.
Present.
Mayor Taylor.
Present.
You have a quorum, ma'am.
Thank you. There being a motion to approve, can I have a first and a second for a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from July 15th, 2024?
First.
Who did the first? Oh, Alderman Donnerworth, and was there somebody down
I'll
here?
do second.
Alderman Guzman. It can be a roll call vote, right? Yeah. All those in favor? No. Oh, sorry, it has to be roll call. Who's calling it? Is it, okay.
Alderman Hayes.
Aye.
Bolton.
Aye.
Guzman.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Felix.
Aye.
Newsom.
Aye.
Turner.
Aye.
Donnerworth.
Aye.
Florian.
Aye.
Motion passed, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any audience time? Okay. Going on to old business. So about a year ago, we talked about what we call RAP money, which is the revenue allocation plan, which is using the casino money and the cannabis money, and what are we going to do with it. And we talked about all the different buckets and how things could be spent, and I asked you to go back and have your ward meetings and see if there was feedback. So we really haven't done anything with this money, and so I am proposing at this point 2 buckets. The first one would be to put money away in our risk fund. And I think we've all seen over the last several months why that would be important, but also the fact that as our insurance has changed and insurance companies are not doing the, what I call the deductible of $250,000, and it's more like $1 million, we should have more put aside in our risk fund so that we're not always taking money out of the budget and that we're not taking bonds out for certain lawsuits and things like that. So that would be the first half of the money. And the second half would be, is I believe that money that we receive from the casino should somehow go back and benefit the community in some way, shape, or form. And I think the way to do that is through economic development. So the 2 places that we have looked at for development is the lakefront and the downtown area. And the first thing you come across in the downtown area is the infrastructure is so bad that our light poles all need to be repaired, electrical is broken, our electrical is underneath the sidewalks, it's not in conduit. We are not broadband ready. There's a lot of things besides lead pipes to be replaced. For those of you who are not familiar, there's certain parts of the sidewalks that have vaults underneath them, which are storage areas that kind of are, it's complicated. But I know when we get into some of these areas, we're also going to find other infrastructure issues. So we have applied for grants, and we're still continuing to apply for grants. The problem with grants is it's very specific on what you can do with it, and it might be $750,000, which is a drop in the bucket when you're talking about doing economic development. So at least for now, I'm proposing that, I don't have the number in front of me now. Is it 10.2?
It's around 10.3, which we'll go through very
Yes.
quickly in the presentation.
So I'm recommending that we do 50% in the risk management so that we're starting to build some money in that fund, and that we do 50%, which would come out to about a little over $5 million that we would sink into our downtown area. Now, I'm going to be realistic with everybody here. We have not gone out for bid for any of this because I'm not going to go for bid if we're not going to do this. We're going to be lucky if we can get a block done for that amount. It's going to be a block at a time, but if we don't start now, then when? And if we don't commit to doing something, are we ever going to get the downtown area up and going? So that's kind of where I'm at and where my train of thought is. But I don't want us never to commit to using this casino and cannabis money. And we've talked about it, and now I'm asking you all to help me as the city move forward in doing some of this stuff that would, one, change our economic development downtown, but also take care of putting money away from risk management in light of lawsuits and deductibles and all of that. So I'm open for discussion. Alderman Guzman.
Do you want me to give the presentation?
Yes, I'm
first?
sorry. Can we have Stu give the presentation first? Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to run through very quickly a summary of the revenue allocation plan, give you guys an update on how much money is currently available from the sources that we identified, talk about the bucket system, and then kind of close the loop with a quick summary of what the mayor just presented as to her priorities. After that, Jesus is going to give a very short, not very short, a presentation on what the Genesee Street project would entail, and then Bob will also be able to speak about the risk management reserve. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you'll recall, we had a strategic goal with this revenue allocation plan to take these incremental revenue streams that are above and beyond traditional sales and property taxes and figure out how to address both acute short-term needs against long-term investment. One of the key things is that we want to have buy-in from the city council and incorporate feedback from the community. Next slide, please. We had a timeline, which unfortunately we didn't really stick to. So the first presentation on this was back in June of 2023. We identified and quantified revenue expectations. We identified needs and opportunities. And now, more than a year later, after Alderman Guzman kept bugging us, rightfully so, we brought this back for further discussion. The idea is that we'll take this plan either a year at a time or even farther ahead if that's the desire of the City Council, get a consensus on it, and then incorporate feedback from the public, and then adopt a long-term plan. Next slide, please. So here's where we are, a quick summary of where the revenues are as of September 2024. Next slide. So we have two main revenue sources, and then there's video gaming taxes, and I'm going to talk briefly about why those are not included in the wrap. Casino taxes and lease rent, we get admissions tax, which is basically a head tax. Every person who walks into the casino, we get $1. Gaming taxes, we get 3.5% of gross revenue. And then there's also miscellaneous property, food and beverage, and sales taxes that are generated by the casino. We also get lease payments in the amount of $250,000 a month for the portion of the casino land that the city owns. Cannabis taxes. Since we now have 2 operating legal dispensaries in the city of Waukegan, we both get a traditional sales tax and a home rule cannabis tax. As I mentioned, video game taxes, VGTs. There is a wagering tax that is applied to VGTs that has nothing to do with our push tax. It is a tax that is collected by the state, and a portion of it is remitted back to the city. That is dedicated almost entirely to supplementing our public safety pension contributions. So we're not going to be covering that in this presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, casino revenue, I already explained what the different components of this are: admissions, wagering, ground lease. The total casino revenue available to date is $9.8 million and change. That is what has been collected between admissions, wagering, and the ground lease. Next slide, please. Cannabis tax revenue. As I mentioned, there are 2 functioning dispensaries in the city, and between those, there is kind of what I refer to as a lasagna of taxes that are put on top, a bunch of different layers. The fact is that we get, we had a projected revenue of about 630,000 for a full year. Total, we've gotten about 487,000. That's not the full year of 2 dispensaries, so we think that that's basically on target. I would note that we don't expect there to actually be a lot of growth in this. We know that the state is going to expand the number of dispensaries, so there's going to be more competition. So per dispensary, we don't expect that dispensaries are going to make a lot more in sales tax than they do. There's another problem that although the city of Waukegan has prohibited the alternative THC products, there's a lot of places that are still selling those, and they don't have these taxes applied to them. So if there is a place that is selling CBD, THC, Delta 8, Delta 9 in places like Park City or Beach Park, we're not getting those taxes, and frankly, those municipalities aren't getting any taxes from those either. But it is eating into the legal cannabis market. So,
Can I interrupt there? Also, aren't they, depending on the election, there may be federal where you can, actually, every state will offer it then?
yeah, so the Biden administration moved to reschedule this from I can't remember if it's a Schedule 3 to a Schedule 2 or vice versa, but regardless, they made it a less controlled substance. There is a possibility that it will be descheduled completely and nationally legalized. If that's the case, whether people think that's a good idea or a bad idea, it will open up the fact that cannabis could be sold in all 50 states. So you won't have people coming from Wisconsin to the same extent. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's the big number. When you look at the total casino revenue, total cannabis revenue, the number that is currently available for long-term revenue allocation funds is $10,316,195. That is the amount that is currently available. There will be more money coming in on a regular basis, but that is the number.
What is the time frame? Is it is that 6 months, is that a year? How long?
That's basically been since,
They opened in February 23.
yeah, so for casino revenues, started in February 23, and then the 2, I believe we had 1 dispensary, Ivy Hall, which opened in Q2 of last year, and then Planet 13 opened in Q4 of last year. So that's been ramping up as well. Okay, next slide, please. I'm going to run through this really quickly, but when we looked at needs and opportunities in our original presentation, we broke this down into 4 buckets. We had guiding principles when we looked at return on investment. If we spend this money on something, will it generate revenue? Will it expand the tax base? Will it lower costs for the city and its residents long term? Those were all questions that we wanted to ask. We wanted to minimize one-time expenditures with short-term benefits. So if we're building infrastructure, we want long-term infrastructure. If we're making investments, we want them to not just be flash in the pan things that happen once. Also focusing on the city's core competencies and responsibilities. What is the city best at doing? What is the city required by law to do? And is there somebody else that does it better? There's a lot of things that the city is asked to do. You can't name many private corporations that are asked to provide all of its clients clean water, public safety, building inspections, zoning. The city does a lot, and it requires a lot of people to do it. Next slide, please. So you'll recall that we created 4 buckets for the revenue. The buckets were really just a way of kind of categorizing possible places to spend this money. The first one was investing in the future. The second was meeting long-term challenges. Third, repairing neglected infrastructure. And then a fourth one, which was community triage and treatment. We'll go through a quick summary of what each of those constituted. Next slide, please. Investing in the future. This was the idea of opening new areas for development and redevelopment. Unlike a lot of communities in Illinois, there are a lot of possibilities for redevelopment. There are areas like the lakefront of Waukegan that have not been fully built out. For a community of its size, there's a lot of opportunities for new housing, new businesses, new amenities. The goal was to expand the tax base to ensure if you bring in more residents, if you bring in more businesses, that reduces the cost to every existing resident's tax burden. Can we attract new residents, businesses, and visitors? Finally, can we generate revenue, generate sales tax, generate more property tax? There was a whole list of projects that were put forward. And I did put on board docs the original presentation, which probably exceeded about 70 slides. I would, if you want to go back and look at that as we have this discussion over the next few weeks, that would probably not be a bad idea. Next slide, please. Meeting long-term challenges. Whenever Bob gets up to speak, we all get a nice chill down our backs because there's a lot of challenges that the city has. No matter how responsible we are, there are big challenges that every municipality in Illinois has with regard to pension obligations, with regard to increasing insurance costs. We need to comply with state mandates. We want to reduce obligations that have high carrying costs. We want to increase our bond rating. Bob will be able to speak to why one of our goals today will be to create a risk management reserve. Next slide, please. Repairing neglected infrastructure. When we talk about economic development, we talk about a lot of new stuff. There's a lot of old stuff in the ground that needs to be repaired, that needs to be maintained, that needs to be upgraded. Waukegan is not the only sinner amongst the many communities in Illinois that has had deferred maintenance, that has not addressed its lead service lines, that has not addressed its water system to make sure that it leaks less. Coordinating, one of the goals here is also to coordinate road replacement with utility upgrades. So I know it's always very frustrating when in front of your house you get a nice coat of blacktop, and then it feels like the next week they're out there with the saw cutters cutting into it to put in some or repair something. We want to coordinate that on a very deliberate basis going forward. Providing public safety with modern facilities and support systems. Anyone who's walked into the police headquarters next door knows that that building was not built with modern policing needs in mind. Fire Station 12 also is quaint, not a term that you want to use for a modern public safety building. There's a lot of needs here. Next slide, please. There was also a recognition that there may be some immediate costs, that there may be some immediate needs that need to be addressed to make sure that the public feels safe, that the public feels stable, and that their needs are being responded to. So, there is room in the revenue allocation plan for these. The issue here is a lot of these priorities are done best by other agencies, and so it would be a question of how can we support those agencies. Next slide, please. We're near the end of my presentation. So as we mentioned, right now we have $10,316,195 available for immediate allocation. The mayor has a proposal, which is downtown infrastructure renovation, which the city engineer is going to speak to. She proposes putting 50% of this revenue towards that. And then Director Benz is going to come up and speak about the risk management reserve, why that is important for us. The next steps for the city council will be to address these proposals. The mayor's putting out hers, but in the end, this is a budgeting process. It's going to be a decision that the city council will need to make together. If you have questions to staff, now would be a good time to ask them. I mean, not right now, but tonight will be a good time to ask them, and then over the next few weeks. We propose to keep coming back to discuss this until we have a plan. We're going to have to intersperse committees of the whole discussing with this, with the other legislative priorities that the aldermen have identified. So it would be at least another month before we come back and talk about this again. But we would like to, by the end of the year, finalize a resolution that defines at least a plan for the next year and allows the staff to move forward with planning and also including this in next year's budget. Mayor, I defer to you if you want to bring up the
Sure.
two staff members.
While they're coming on up, I will just say, again, why did I come to this decision after mulling over and taking things into account, is that I feel right now our not-for-profits, there's more and more not-for-profits coming around, and they have a lot of grant money specifically allocated for things that we would have a hard time doing. So I've kind of said, what we're doing is just allocating right now for 1 year. You can change things as time goes by, but we need to start somewhere. And like I said, the two things, as we know, we've talked about the need for a risk fund that we've needed for years on end. It's kind of like we never had a capital improvement line item, but you need one, and we needed one for risk. But I feel like I really think that if we're going to get that downtown going, we got to start. And when are we going to start? Alderman Guzman?
Okay, so I think most of it, is the presentation for the public, because I thought we did this during the Alderman briefing.
I thought we also
because
did
I'm ready
one
for-
publicly. I thought we did it publicly as well.
Because I'm ready for questions and stuff like that.
You're ready for what?
Ask questions, or do we
Okay.
have to listen to the briefings again?
You won't hear it in automatic briefings.
No, we already listened to the briefings and the
Oh,
automatic.
this is for, yeah, this is for, because it's recorded, this is for the public to see.
Okay.
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 You want to start in engineering?
Yes, Mayor. Good afternoon, City Council members. So, from front of you is a presentation, as Alderman Guzman stated during the aldermanic briefings. Try to hit it summary level so we can have time for discussion. Essentially, staff went out, did some investigation along Genesee between Grant and Washington, and then they noted a lot of the infrastructure that needs to be reconstructed, reevaluated. Some can be kept, but essentially, there's a lot of infrastructure from our subsurface utilities to our surface transportation items that need upgrading or replacement. So can you go to the next slide? Our goal of the buckets that Corporation Council mentioned earlier for this project hits those three buckets: investing in the future, meeting the long-term challenges, repairing the neglected infrastructure. Next slide, please. So investing in the future, our goal with this project is to have our downtown area, which is one of the main focus of Waukegan, to be thriving. We can start that process by some type of catalyst. Catalyst could be a big project coming up, infrastructure improvements, and we have to consider the existing conditions of all aspects in the downtown area, from your curbs, your inlets, your storm sewers, your lead service lines, water mains that need to be upgraded, ADA ramps, sidewalks, whether they're concrete or brick, your street lights. Some of the street lights for today's standards from the Lighting Council, we don't fall under, we need more lighting, whether it's pedestrian lighting or road lighting, and there's a balance between having too much lighting and lighting, but again, all those items will come into play depending on how the council votes moving forward with some of these projects. Next slide, please. While we wait for it, we can focus on some of the photos. Again, some of the intersection, as you have noticed, maybe from Scoop to Loop, there were some temporary fixes that had to be done to avoid trip hazards along the way. We must also come up to be ADA accessible, ProWag accessible as well, having those areas in between the blocks for ADA compliant. So this is a whole project that doesn't just look at the subsurface aspects of the downtown, but also the subsurface. The challenge there is, we don't know what's underneath the ground. Waukegan is a very old city, so we have to make sure that we have enough soil borings available to pinpoint any contaminants along the way, and ensure that once we have a construction contract going, that we're systematic of what of the landfill, because that could increase the cost. And also the traffic control. We know that the downtown is a business district, entertainment area. There are businesses that need to be considered, so we have to be systematic with every road closure and every opening that we do on the street. Next slide, please. Again, just talked about more about the neglected infrastructure. Some of the street wells can be improved. Some of them are degraded. So again, it's taking the extra step or really evaluating a major project, what I call a major engineering project. Public Works does a lot of maintenance projects. This is an additional step to ensure we have everything we need for construction, which is just drawing specifications. Next slide, please. So on Genesee Street, between Grand and Washington, based on the estimates that our staff has available and the field investigation, between that block, we're looking at roughly $7.7 million. Again, the number could go up or could go lower depending on the next step. That is the actual project development, getting a more honed-in view of what items need to be repaired, can be kept, and be upgraded. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
So I'll just add really quickly, I'm sorry, I will call on you in a minute. For those of you who were there last week, we also unveiled that we are going for the Oswald grant, which is the first one, or Osland grant, for the Jack Benny Plaza. And so that would all be part of the renovation for downtown. So we're trying to get plans in order to get the downtown moving, because that's where we need the economic development the most. And I think the payoff in this is the nicer the downtown becomes, the more you'll attract businesses to it.
I agree, and I also think it'll be vital to attracting residents to want to live down there as well. It seems like a bargain to me. I mean, I've been up here 5.5 years, and we don't get this much bang for our buck very often, so I hope your numbers come true. One thing I thought of since we saw you on Thursday, and I didn't see it here, and maybe I missed it, but I'm very interested in making sure we have public access to Wi-Fi. So is that part of this plan to do, I don't know what even you need. I'm not a IT person, but like fiber optic, whatever, or that kind of stuff. So we'll have public Wi-Fi in the downtown area?
So those numbers, they consider the fiber network. The public Wi-Fi itself, it's another conversation with our IT director to ensure those items get wrapped up. But yes, is it included in this project? Again, this is a very high-level estimate. It includes 2 through 3 days of field investigations. A well-engineered project can take weeks, perhaps months, depending on the magnitude. So yes, it's a possibility to include Wi-Fi. We are considering fiber with the subsurface utilities.
It would also be working with the county on that, because what I want to do is dig once and get everything done. So it would be lead pipes, it would be everything. But when you put all that together, we'll be lucky if this covers a block. But that, combined with some of our other grants, at least we're moving forward and we're getting it resolved. Alderman Guzman?
Alderman Florian was talking about fiber optic. Is that old technology? Why not just do the 5G tower and then they would connect from there instead of digging or putting in old technology?
So that's a good question that I could have our IT director answer, because we were in conversations with them. Our goal, is to provide the fiber accessibility also to our residents or businesses alike. The 5G does carry more gigabytes. I mean, the fiber. So going to the cell tower model, that could also be investigated depending on the needs of the community. If the businesses who need the hardwire will benefit from it.
Because wouldn't it just, you could just put it on top of one of the buildings and, don't they even pay you for that? put a tower on top of a building so it can have more coverage around the city?
So those would have to be agreements with the property owners as well.
Or we could just put it on top of one of these city buildings and call it a day, and the city receive the revenue.
Ron, do you want to come up and answer that for?
Mayor, Alderman, I'll give it a try. To start with, the 5G platform, the wireless cellular platform, does cost money. That, once we have our own fiber in the ground and in place, is a waste of money. So if I can get this, like the Genesee Theater, infrastructure put in, and then we get our fiber in the ground and on the poles, then we're likely to be able to put Wi-Fi down on Genesee Street that will serve at near gigabit speeds where 5G is not going to do that. It will carry more people, which was the problem with the beachfront wireless project. It did not carry enough people. So there's some studies that need to be accomplished so we can do it right. But 5G, I'm sorry.
Exact, and my whole thing is I don't want to stick with old technology. If it's easier, I mean, we could even look into Starlink or something like that for our Wi-Fi. I just don't want something that we're going to put in there, spend a bunch of money, and then it's obsolete within 5 years or something like that. So I mean, it has to be competitive and it has to work, but I just don't want old technology if something's easier and better to do it long term.
Appreciate that. That's one of the challenges we had with the beachfront wireless project is the technology was not where it needed to be to do the job. So unfortunately, it was a pilot. Yeah. We learned from it.
One more thing. I saw $7 million up there. I mean, and we're looking into dividing from one pot, the 10 million, and do both things all at one time. Why not do like a 5-year plan for the downtown area? Because it's not going to get done right away either way. Because we're looking at Genesee to removing those spots off the bridge itself. Why not do a 5-year program, put $1.4 million, and then split the other one with the risk? I mean, I think am I jumping too far ahead with this?
Yeah, because it's best, honestly, if you probably do a year at a time. In case we ever had a massive budget issue or something like that, I think you want to probably do a year at a time and put that aside. But you guys can decide that at a later point. That's something that's one of the things you're going to have to mull over. We're not voting on this tonight. It's just for you to get all of this in your head because it's a lot.
Yeah, but my whole, okay, so we're looking at 2 buckets. I mean, if you divide this within like 5 years for the downtown area, 10 years for risk, or even I can get it as low as maybe another 3 years less down to 7 years. Now you got 2 buckets. Now you can add on another 3 more buckets on top of that. So we're doing 5 buckets at a time instead of just 1 at a time. That's
Yeah.
my point.
I think
And
we want to get like costs and stuff like that before we jump too far into things. But I think it's good to look at it every year to see, is this still where we want to invest the money? Are we getting the bang for the buck? But that's something that we can talk about at the next committee of the whole when you guys have had time to digest it.
Because my worry is also that with inflation going up every year, I mean, we could have probably gotten let's go with the police station. We could have probably got a police station for $20 million, and now with inflation prices and everything going up, now it's probably going to cost us $50 million, and that's my
Well,
whole problem.
Was it 170 million that estimate came in?
107.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could've got it
but
for
it's going up
1.2.
every year, and that's my whole problem. That's my whole thing. So if you have a plan ahead and you start the project, you'll pay today's prices instead of tomorrow.
Well, not if you're going to go out at a time for construction, because you'll never get construction for 5 years. They won't give you bids for that. So, but those are questions you can ask staff about at a later time.
All right.
Because I still want to have Bob speak, and we have more questions. Alderman Felix?
I just wanted to mention two things. First, in terms of the Wi-Fi, is there examples of other cities that are doing Wi-Fi downtown where they're using it? What's the
Right now, we're
benefits?
not doing city-sponsored Wi-Fi downtown. We did a mutual test pilot on the beachfront last year with, unfortunately, limited success. We needed faster technology. That was a learning point, and that's why moving forward into this, if we do get the infrastructure in there so that I have conduit to pull Wi-Fi through, then we have a higher speed of internet that we can provide to wireless customers or patrons downtown, as example. This is some engineering that has to take place. No, right now, we're not providing any Wi-Fi downtown.
My question is are there other cities that are doing this, like this kind of service where they're providing free Wi-Fi in their downtown for their patrons?
Yeah, it's in the news. I believe New York's got that going on. And go ahead.
I don't think it should be free. I mean,
We're talking about free, or we're just talking about
No, no, no.
accessibility?
accessibility is to
Accessibility.
get on if you want it, but not free.
Alderman, that's not my part of the business. I provide services as requested by the group here.
Okay.
Good
Well,
director.
that was my first question. So just to make sure, this is accessibility, not free, right? Okay. All right. And then question number two, I mean, I would love for this to happen. I mean, this is downtown, it's in the 4th Ward. I mean, definitely need more business downtown. Part of it that I do think would be beneficial is also to kind of maybe do a survey or some kind of dig into our system for businesses to come to Waukegan, because there's a lot of businesses, in my experience, right? And not everyone does everything the right way, but a lot of businesses that I talk to, they have a really hard time. So part of this, that we're fixing it, right? But I also want to make it, I want to fix our process for our businesses to be able to come into our area. And part of that, maybe we can do maybe a study, like, hopefully not that expensive, but a study where, is our parking there? Is our process there? And that way we can, once we're fixing up our downtown, we can make it easier for these businesses to come downtown. Is that something we can do, maybe like a study?
Yeah. I mean, that's not a problem, but that wouldn't per se have an issue with infrastructure. That's a whole nother thing as well.
Can we add it to that, or is this?
We could, yeah, that could be part of it. But it would be part of that 10 million, because that's all we have.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, okay.
Alderman Hayes, you had your hand up before.
I did. I just wanted to clarify a comment that you made. You said, would the 7 million only cover one block, or will it cover from Grand to
We don't
Washington?
know for sure what it'll cover, because we don't know what's underneath the ground when we get there. But we want to know the direction that you guys want to go in before we would go out for bid and all of that kind of stuff. But I can tell you from an engineering point of view, we have infrastructure that's 100 and some years old. That it's not like Gurnee or other places that don't have that old of infrastructure. When we get in there, we're going to find there's more broken pipes than we thought of or knew of, and there's going to be a lot of other costs that go with that. So I'm anticipating that we will be lucky if we get a block done. And I think we start from Grand to Clayton and keep working our way down, because the other way, they're going to be doing the bridge, the Genesee Bridge. So we don't want to do anything as long as they're going to be working down there. We want to start on the other end. And actually, that's probably our most expensive area right there. And then I'm estimating it'll get better. What brought this all to fruition was the fact that, as many of you know, for Scoop, we did asphalt in a lot of places to prevent people from falling. It was done for a purpose, but I think we all agree it looks terrible. And it loses that hometown feeling of what we had. And if we're going to go back to that and make that area nice and make it at its glory, it's going to take some hardcore money besides just grant money to get that done. The grants will add to that and may stretch our dollar, but we can't grant our way to success. So,
We're more likely to get the grants if we show that we're already investing in that infrastructure too, right?
absolutely.
Okay.
Alderman Turner?
Thank you. So we'll term it the redevelopment of downtown is a whole series of problems presented, but sticking to the idea of utilizing these monies from the casino and the dispensaries to benefit the most of Waukegan. We have over 100,000 residents here that we don't get that many downtown. So in order to benefit the most people, I think our focus should be on streets, roads, alleys, and lighting in our neighborhoods. There are several streets where not just potholes. I mean, the potholes is, I term it the annual pothole crisis, right? We should have a plan, and I do have a plan to defeat that crisis. But there are a number of streets that there is significant deterioration along the curb lines. Jackson Street, for one, in several areas along Jackson Street. I know over in the 4th Ward on Pine Street, it was like literal mud holes in the street. Not potholes, mud holes. So my point being, if we're going to invest these monies, we should be investing where it will address problems that most immediately impact how our neighbors are living day to day. The alleys in many areas down in the 1st Ward, they're a disaster. 6th Ward has some pretty bad ones. They're not as bad as 1st Ward. But anyway, I think you get my point. And one way we could do this, we could allocate $1 million per ward. That would be $9 million, and let that focus be $1 million. Got $1 million for each ward, no matter what. You got $1 million for the streets. Another way you might want to do that is maybe take a little less, but allot certain monies for each ward for the traffic calming devices. We talked about speed humps, speed bumps, rumble strips, radar signage, and those kinds of things that pertain to not just roads and alleys, but general public safety. So, and then if you're going to talk about downtown, and I've heard it for years, we need to get more people downtown. We got to get more people downtown. So the way a project should work is, someone has an idea, want to get more people downtown, but how do you measure that? How many people? Why do you need more people down there? You say, well, we want to get more businesses and increase tax revenue. How much tax revenue do you want to increase? How many people have to come down there? How much money you have to spend? And it goes on, and you come up with a definitive number that you can measure against and what you're determining. And now I understand the need for infrastructure and downtown. What I'm saying is that should be a much, much, much lower priority than focusing on streets, roads, alleys, lighting, etc., out in the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Okay, because we're running short on time, I'm going to have Bob from Risk Management talk to you.
Thank you. Really, risk management, the whole goal of the stabilization fund is to reduce the burden on departments for settlement costs and costs of insurance over the time. As we talked about in Alderman briefings, our insurance premiums this year were for liability insurance alone was $3.8 million. You add on workers' comp insurance on top of that is about $4.1 million is what we were paying for insurance. This are premiums this year. Along with that, our SIR, which is our deductible, went from $1 million last year. The mayor said $1 million again this year, I wish. This year, our deductible is $2.5 million per claim. That's per individual claim that gets filed against the city, is we're paying the first $2.5 million. Those premiums cover between that $2.5 million and the $18 million that we have in insurance. That's all last year we had $30 million in insurance. For that $3.8 million, all we could get was $18 million in insurance this year. So that's how our ratings are going. If we truly gave it by department, for our police and fire departments would be paying police about $2.7 million and fire about $1.3 million for their liability insurance. That's what if you truly broke it out by department. Luckily, we spread it across all employees, our liability cost. But you can see that when we talk about SROs, the true cost of a police officer is a lot greater than the cost of me sitting in my office. Workers' comp, like I said, we pay about $230,000 a year on workers' comp insurance, just the premium. We pay the first $750,000 for every workers' comp claim. In the history of the city, the last 35 years, we've had one workers' comp claim that has hit the SIR, and that's a gentleman who's been on it since 1989. He's been on the workers' comp for an injury, and we're still paying his claim because how they settled that claim in 1989, it gave the city his liability for the rest of his life for that injury. So every time he needs a new back fusion, we pay for his back fusion. Currently, annually, we pay about $2.4 million in workers' comp costs. That's medical treatment, TTD time when they're off, and their settlement cost. So that's really what this fund is that eventually the costs are going to be so great that if we got a settlement in February, could a department pay that settlement if their workers' comp budget or their liability budget's already been expanded? Where does that money come from? That's really the purpose of this. And the purpose of it, too, is to build it up so we can deal with bigger claims without having to go to bonding someday. This last Thursday, after I got off my morning call, we had a call with our insurance companies and our lawyers, and we reserved a claim for $15 million on Thursday. We reserve it on paper. Most insurances require cities or companies to put some of that money down. Our insurance company luckily lets us just sign a piece of paper that says we have $15 million to pay that claim if it came up tomorrow. We don't. So that's really the point of a stabilization fund. The county currently has a $30 million stabilization fund. And what they do is every year, that's their risk fund. If they use $5 million, the county board puts $5 million back into it, so at the end of every budget year, it's at $30 million. Hopefully, over time, that's what we'd have. You draw money down from it when we had to and just reimburse it through the budget process.
Okay, like you said, over time. So, I mean, I worked out the numbers. So if we went into a 10-year plan, so that would be $450,000 a year.
Well, you don't have 10 million a year.
No, I understand that you were trying to build up to $10 million, and we have 4.5, I'm sorry, $4.5 million, and we're trying to build up to 10 million. So if we added $450,000 a year to that fund, that would give us 10 years to build that fund to 10 million.
Except you're paying out of it as you go.
But we would reimburse that. We reimbursed that.
Personally, I think 10 years would be ideal, but I don't think we have 10 years before our insurance company really puts up their hammer on our
And
back.
that's where I was going to. So I was like, okay, so even if we go a little bit more aggressive, I can get it down for another 3 years and go for 7 years, and then we could go for $600,000 a year. In 7 years, that would give us a little over 7 years. That would give us the remaining money that's needed for that, and that's why I was doing a 5-year plan for the downtown for $7 million. That would give us a $1.4 million a year. That was giving us a total of $2 million. Because what I was asking about how much money we're estimated to get a year, I thought it was a little bit over $4 million. So that would be $2 million. So then we could have another whatever buckets or whatever else we want to do with the other 2 million, and not even go into this 10.3 million, or maybe look into sending water westward, looking into the putting the police station or the fire station yearly payments, and having 5 buckets or 6 buckets instead of only 2.
Well, I think if you're going to make headway, it's better the smaller number you have, the more you can put into it. And then when you complete that, you move on to something else. But that's all questions that you need to meet with staff about. We're just throwing this out there. I'm going to adjourn pretty soon so we can start our meeting not too late. All this meeting was about tonight was for you to have ideas to go back and think about. What I will tell you, when we were talking about SROs before, I'm not asking the school to contribute a workman's comp either. And that's a big part of that you just heard. But Any other quick questions? Yes.
So we have what we had discussion earlier or a couple weeks ago. So we have a reserve fund somewhere, right? And we took $7 million out of that to shore up a budget deficit. Why can't we take money out of that fund to fund the risk reserve, right? And then take the 10 million that we're talking about and put it elsewhere. Why do we have to
A
take?
shell game. We did not, we explained that to you last time. There was no mysterious 6 million that you keep talking about.
No. You had a revenue of
Okay.
238 million.
Please ask your
So,
questions
yeah,
to
I did
finance.
ask the question. You're trying to counter me. My question is, why can't we take money from our existing reserve fund and shuttle that over to a risk reserve?
Because you want to have money down the road all the time, because what happens if in 2008 you have a recession? Do you want to lay off half of your police? Do you want to, you always need to have emergency money, and if you spend every last dime, you have nothing. But I would suggest that's a conversation that you have with Don Schultz. I do want to adjourn so we can take 5 minutes and come back and start our council meeting. Can I have a first and a second to adjourn?
First. Second.
Donenworth, second was Alderman Felix. All those in favor? Oh, no, roll call, sorry, because we have one on the line. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Alderman Hayes. Bolton.
Aye.
Guzman.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
Felix.
Aye.
Newsom.
Aye.
Turner.
Aye.
Donnerworth. Florian. And, well, there's enough.
Okay. Okay. Please be back by 7:05 because I want to start the meeting.